Hi there, Hayden from Advanced Accelerator, and today we're going to be talking about delegation. Delegation is one of the key leadership skills. Most business owners, especially in the early days, one of the problems that they face is just zero time, working crazy hours, after hours, weekends, and no time working on the business. Because all the decision making is coming to you, you're just stuck in the business the whole time. So to get you out of that cycle of spinning your wheels in the same spot and try and free up some time, it's critical that you learn this key of delegation. Let's just talk about why delegation sometimes doesn't go successfully. Most of us, when we're a new manager, think, look, it's quicker if I do it myself. The devil's in the details. Obviously I'm the business owner, I understand this, I've done it a million times, I understand the needs of the business, etc. Nobody I hand it off to is going to do it as well as me. And I've had experiences in the past where I've handed it off and what's come back is rubbish. So I'm just going to do it myself. Now, you can keep on doing that, but nothing's going to change. So, the problem is that we tend to think of delegation as a binary thing. So, this task is not too bad, I might be able to hand that off to Simon. This one's super complex. No one's going to get it. It's going to take ages of training. They just haven't dealt with this before. So I'm keeping it to myself. That's the binary. The thing that'll unlock your ability to delegate is this 80-20 rule, which is of any single task, there's 80% of that task that you can delegate. Sure, you might need to hold on to a critical 20%. That 20% might be some of the concept at the beginning, and some decision making at the end, and some checks along the way, etc. But there's 80% of that task generally that can be handed off. That should be mind-blowing if you haven't come across that before, because once you realise that, you start to look at delegation in a whole new way. Now, let's just talk about how to delegate effectively, because one area where a lot of people tend to get into trouble is just thinking that delegation is saying, hey, here's a task, give it a crack, come back to me when you're done, and just handing it off. That's not effective delegation, and actually it's not effective leadership. Like, delegation is one of the keys to being an effective leader, because you really should be thinking about delegation as an opportunity to mentor and bring your staff up. And the flows through are massive everywhere. Your time will free up immensely, and you'll get time to work on the business, and the business will start moving forward. But your staff too, when you start delegating to them, they are taking more responsibility for the business, and you're showing that you trust them, and you're working with them together and showing them how you think, and sort of imprinting your style of thinking and standards and expectations on them, so it brings your whole team up. So obviously giving clear instructions and support is absolutely key to being effective. And so I've got a little bit of a framework here. There's 3 major things that you need to do. One is chunk the task. If the whole task is overwhelming, then break it into meaningful segments and take one part of it and go, okay, we're going to get some instruction around that. I'm going to mentor them, get them running right, give them feedback, redirect, and once that's bedded in, we'll move to the next one. So chunking's number 1. Number 2 is just clear direction to your staff, which has got a couple of subsections we'll go into in a second. And then the third one, feedback loop. Everything in business has to have a feedback loop, and delegation is no different. And that feedback shouldn't just be at the end of the project, unless you've delegated something similar to them a million times and you trust them. But in the beginning stages, it might be something like, hey, look, put an outline for this together. Give me the key components that are going to be in this document, and then let's revise that. Hey, put that in, take that out, change the wording on that. Cool. And then, so there's your first feedback, and then it might be, hey, look, take 2 of those headers in this procedural document and go and flesh them out. And then they come back and you go, yeah, it's good, or it's all in there, but it's long and it's a bit wordy. Like, I want you to condense that down to 1 paragraph and maybe put an illustration and define these terms. Show me that when you've done those 2. And they come back again, another review. Perfect, love it. Okay, go away and do the rest and come back and we'll review when you've done them. That's the sort of mentoring, coaching approach that's going to get you an effective result. So we've just talked about chunking. Actually, I'll give you a bit of an example with chunking. One thing I always hated doing when I was general manager of an HVAC company was the building contracts, or actually for us we were the service contract, so because we were doing the HVAC part and the master agreement was the building contract, so had to pour through all that legalese, which no one enjoys doing, and it always felt too overwhelming to hand over. But if you think about it, you're actually looking at the same things every time. You're looking at your public liability insurance, your indemnity, etc. In each of those, you're checking your coverage meets the coverage that they're expecting. If there's any shortfall, then you're looking at the actual what liability they're trying to put on you. Is it just the usual things like negligence on your part, or malicious intent from one of your staff, etc., or are they trying to put liability from third parties that you've got no say on onto you? So those are the sort of things that you can actually list up in a spreadsheet for a staff, and it does take a bit of preparation time. You might have to go through 2 or 3 contracts and go, what am I looking at here? What are the main ones? Put those into little subsections and then put the different things that you want them to check on that. But once you've got that, you could hand off the whole reading of the contract, wading through all that dense legal jargon, and just have them come back with a summary in a spreadsheet with some red flags and some green flags and some yellow flags. And so, okay, yeah, look, let's leave these ones, are not going to budge on that, but maybe push back on that one and see where you get to, etc. So there's a really good example of something that seems undelegatable in the beginning, but actually if you chunk it, it can be done. And obviously, again, you're a leader, so it's coaching. So it's not just making the spreadsheet saying, hey, go away, and giving them a contract for the first time. It might be sitting down and going through a few clauses with them and saying, explaining what indemnity is and what public liability is and what negligence is, etc. And kind of going through the wording and saying, I think they're trying to say this here, till they've done enough of them that they can go, yeah, I can kind of have a stab at this now. I kind of get where it's going. Which is what we did. We just learnt it along the way. So, it's just that coaching approach as you go. But that's number 1, chunk the task. Number 2 is just clear direction to your staff. And in this, I'm going to give you 4 things which you're going to want to talk to your employee who you're delegating the task to. These 4 things are audience. Who's it for? Is it a document for a customer, for an employee, etc.? What's the desired outcome? What are you trying to achieve from doing this? The format, the document format, etc. Where it is. Is it on the web? Is it in a folder? And then so that's your 3rd one. So we've got audience, desired outcomes, format, and finally success factors. What are the key things that you really need to be paying attention to make sure that this project comes out well? So, and just as an aside, when we're talking about giving instructions to staff, your head might go to making up Word documents and all the rest of it, but there's easy ways to do it. Like I'm a big fan of whiteboards. I used to have whiteboards all around the company, and you'd have a meeting with your staff, and I could write up audience, desired outcome, format, and success factors, and then write it, or I could tell them to write it and I just dictate it to them, and then at the end of the meeting, or if we run out of space, I go, right, tell them to take a photo on their mobile phone, rub it out, and we move on to the next bit, and then they've got it documented there, and they, even through that process of them documenting it, it's starting to embed that framework in their head, so that next time, and you say, hey, look, keep that, because next time I delegate a task to you, I'm going to ask you to fill out those same things. And so the second task you delegate to them, you might say, hey, here's kind of what we're trying to do, but you go away and write out what the audience is, what the success factors are, what the format is, and what the desired outcomes are, and come back and check it with me, and I'll, so it gets easier as you go. So we've talked about chunking. Let's go direction to the staff, and we've said audience, desired outcomes, format, and fourth is success factors. So your audience, who's it for? So for example, we're creating a document for new apprentices when they come into the company, so that they're not completely confused and they're not asking random people what they do, or clamming up and not going to the toilet or something. So it's like, look, who do you report to, start time, finish time, lunches, some basic behaviours, who do you talk to for uniforms, for tools, for IT systems, etc. So your audience is apprentices. They're going to be pretty green around the gills. They're just out of school. They might not have had many jobs, if any at all. They don't know the industry. So you're pitching it at quite a, if you're asking Chat GPT to do it, you'd say, look, write this at a 8-year-old level. You want it to be simple, easy to understand, not too dense, with lots of illustrations and definitions, so that they don't get lost. So there's your audience. You know who you're pitching it to now, your desired outcomes. Okay, on this project we've got two. One is we want to make the apprentices feel welcome and give them a document that they can refer back to again and again to go, oh yeah, who was I supposed to talk to about that? And they're not asking. So that's one for them, is it's making them feel more welcome and less confused. And the second one is they're not bugging everybody else around the company and they go, I don't know, talk to him, etc. It's like they know where to go, so it's saving everyone else time. So there's your desired outcomes. Your format, well, it doesn't make any sense to put it in a filing cabinet that they're not going to have access to if they're out in the field all the time, or on some file server that only the office uses. So can we get it into a PDF on the mobile jobbing app that they're going to be using, so it's right there when they need to get to it. So there's your format, and then your success factors for this project. This is just helping make sure that you get a good result. So you're saying, hey, look, I see the success factors as being one, the document's got to be in an easily understandable and accessible format. The apprentices should give good feedback on the document. So, go and check it with them, make sure they go, oh yeah, no, that's really helpful. Does it, maybe you could add this in, etc. Make sure that somebody is assigned to own and update the document and keep the most recent version uploaded or accessible after initial creation. And that document owner should be noted in the document itself, so that everyone knows, hey, can you throw this in the document so it stays up to date, it doesn't become something that just gradually goes out of date and doesn't get used. And we know who's responsible. And then the last one is make sure stakeholders are consulted. That might be your installation managers or your leaders or your service manager, around content and format, etc. And make sure that once it's done, etc., it's clearly communicated to all of the stakeholders. So there's your success factors for the project. So if you consider those things, and the final one is feedback. Now, feedback we talked a little bit about before, but it might be go and make the outline for it first. Give me the headings of the things you're going to cover, and then it's like, okay, I think you've missed this. You've put tools policy in there, but I think there's a broader company tools policy that we're going to make pretty soon, and the apprentice tools can go in there. So let's leave that out. That can be a separate document. You have that discussion, redirect them and say, okay, go and do two. The first two in the table of contents. Give them some feedback on that. Once you got that looking right and you're happy with it, it's like, yeah, cool, go do the rest. And then check it at the end and give any revisions. So that feedback loop is absolutely critical too. And just letting them know that, you're confident they can do it, that you're really happy that you've got someone capable, it's the first time, and it can be a little bit daunting, but you're here to help, and it's going to be a big help to you, and it's also going to be really good for them to be able to sort of step up and take responsibility for this area. So there's a handy little framework, and then this is just a sort of a 4-quadrant thing. You're just like, which, there's so many tasks that you want to hand off. Which ones do you want to hand off first? And yeah, so I've got an order here, 1, 2, 3, 4. On the y-axis at the bottom, on this quadrant, you've got things that take very little time. Over here, we've got the task takes you a lot of time, like that contract, etc. And then easy to hand off, or it's a complex task and it's a bit difficult and requires a bit more work to hand off. So, in terms of priorities, these tasks that take a lot of your time, as opposed to a little, these are the ones that you want to focus on first, 1 and 2, and obviously easy task first, because you'll get those big rewards from not much effort. And then second, you're going to, yes, it's going to gain you a lot of time because it takes a lot of time, but it's like that contract, it's a bit harder to do. And so you can take that 1, 2, 3, 4 and basically just make up a spreadsheet with rows of your tasks here. I've got contract review, tools policy, admin procedure, council check, invoices, estimating, etc. And then I've just got staff names in the columns like Dave, Sarah, Bill. So you're sort of looking at contract review and going, okay, out of Dave, Sarah and Bill, who's most likely to be able to perform that task that we were talking about chunking before? Well, decided it's Sarah. We know it's a hard to do task with a big gain in time, so it's a number 2. So you put your numbers next to the names there, and then we'll start with our 1s and then carry on to the 2s and just knock it out like that. So that's a general approach to delegation for you. And I guess I'll just end by reinforcing again that so critical to, like, this is just about the biggest thing that any leader can do to gain time. This is the key to it, this 80-20 rule, and understanding that you're not a manager handing off a task, that you're a leader coaching your staff. So it does require a little bit of hand holding and a little bit of work up front, but you've got a clear framework here to use. You can do it on the whiteboard, get your staff to do all the notation, taking photos, etc. You're just talking, and over time they learn this framework and it just gets easier and easier. So yeah, hopefully that helps with delegation. If you do this well, you can expect to start having some time on your hands to be able to do work on the business rather than in it. Cheers.